Like Rasan was saying, I hang out with some rappers from time to time. I hang out with some entertainers from time to time. Y'all are rock stars, so I'm hanging out with you today. But we have an esteemed list of people who will be coming up for the All Clubs LA Immersive Sessions. And I want to start with Mr. Jim Manton. Now, before we get to him, let me just give you a little quick update. He's the owner of ERO Sports. He's a biomechanist, and this guy, you got to put some respect on his name because he makes everybody that much better. 25 Elite World Championships. He's helped these athletes get to that. The Tour de France, the Giro d'Italia, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Vuelta a España, Tour de Flanders. That's the rocky spot, right? And those are the cobblestones? Those are the Flanders, right? I know about that because I was like, I rode through a block in the Bronx one day like that. Like, this is crazy. How do they even do this professionally? Milan San Remo, and multiple bronze, silver, and Olympic gold medalists. Please put your hands together for Mr. Jim Manton.
And now I have to follow that. Makes it tough on me. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here and listening to me. I do own ERO Sports, ERO. We pronounce it ERO. Because a lot of our focus is on aerodynamics. I've been doing bike fits for over 2 decades now, and I've been lucky enough to fit anywhere from pure beginners. Actually, some people actually had to teach how to ride a bike before I could do a bike fit for them, all the way up to some of the greatest cyclists and triathletes in the world. And so it's been my pleasure to do that. I've had a blast doing it. Everybody wants my job. And it's because it's a great job. You know, I truly have done what I've loved. So we're going to talk a little bit about bike fit today. We're going to have some fun with it. I'm glad there are so many ladies here because we're going to talk about women and what you feel on bicycles compared to what men feel on bicycles. And trust me when I tell you, men have no clue what women feel on bikes. And if we did, we would not ride bikes. We'd sit on the curb and cry while you guys kept riding, but we would not ride. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. First, I'm going to bring up Cedric here. Cedric is my very good friend and my crash test dummy for today. And I'm going to tell you that, you know, bike fit can fix a lot of things, a lot of aches and pains. And one thing that's very clear, though, it doesn't fix ugly. So, you know. All right, so I've known Cedric for a while. I love the man. But we're going to look at his position a little bit. And we're going to talk about bike fit and what are really the key areas we're looking for. We're not going to get too deep into this because we can get deep into this. Nowadays when we do bike fits, if you've been in cycling for any length of time, we used to drop a plumb line from your knee and we used to measure while you weren't pedaling. Nowadays we use motion capture technology to capture you while you're pedaling. And that technology continues to progress, and we're not going to do that here today, but I'm going to show you some of the things that we're looking at and some of the things that you should be aware of when it comes to bike fit. When you're riding your bike, on average per hour, you could be pedaling anywhere between 5,000 to 8,000 revolutions an hour. And when you have that kind of repetitive motion, if your biomechanics are wrong, you're either going to feel pain, discomfort, and sometimes injury. And we don't want that. Not to mention the fact that you're not going nearly as fast as you should be because you're putting all this effort into a bad position that's not allowing you to take advantage of your power. So, we're going to watch Cedric ride. I'm going to have him put his hands on the hoods, and he's kind of, it's not as bad as I thought. We were trying to get him to sit wrong on the bike, but anybody who's been riding a bike for a while, if you look at Cedric right now, is there anything that you see that doesn't look right to you? And feel free to just raise your hand. I'm not picking on Rasan. He's too easy. What do you see? He does look too stretched out. There are 3 things that people do wrong most often, and that is one of those things. See how he's reaching to his handlebars right now? See how his shoulder is pulled forward? You will see a lot of people look like this on their bicycles, and that is too much reach to the aero bar. So if he were to move forward for me a little bit, his shoulders and bend your elbows, Bend your elbows, which is hard to do on a trainer compared to outside, by the way. Then he's much more relaxed on this bike, and that is much more how this is supposed to look. See now how his shoulder is now back into its socket. He's got a little bend in his elbows, so he's getting a little suspension off his arms. That's much, much better. That is one of the things people do wrong. But the biggest thing people do wrong, and the thing you'll see on all the internet forums, and go ahead and move back again, and go ahead and stop at the bottom of your pedal. So we're going to have him stop at the bottom of his pedal stroke. The bottom of your pedal stroke, the longest part of your pedal stroke, is not when the crank is pointed straight down. It's actually kind of out this sort of 525 position. The one thing you'll hear all the time is your saddle is too high. If you stay on internet forums for any length of time, your saddle is too high is what people type all the time. And that's because for a lot of you, your saddle is just way too stinking high. And it robs you of power, right? You're not, by the time, if this was Cedric's actual extension, see how his leg is extended right here? That is absolutely incorrect. It should be nowhere near that much extension. So by the time his foot gets to about here, his power is gone. Right at the power phase of his pedal stroke, his power has left him. So one of the things you really need to be careful of, and one of the reasons you need a bike fit, is to get the proper saddle height. Okay, so go ahead and scoot forward. So now at the bottom of his pedal stroke with his foot in probably the position where it's at the bottom of his pedal stroke, see now how we have a nice bend in this knee? That's what it's supposed to look like. Your leg should not be fully extended at the bottom of that pedal stroke. So much better there. He will have much more power, and he'll be much more comfortable. One of the things that saddle height does to you besides rob you of power, it can create knee pain. So, for instance, if you have knee pain at the back of your knee, that's often because your saddle is too high. Okay? So if you have that, think about your saddle being too high. The other thing it can cause you to do is rock on your saddle, right? So if you have saddle pain, and women, we're going to talk about saddle pain. It's a whole different world for you. But if you have saddle pain, oftentimes a big part of that pain is because your saddle position is wrong. And I just said saddle position there because saddle height is part of your overall saddle position. So saddle height is extremely important. I cannot emphasize that enough, to get your saddle height correct. And there are lots of different ways to do it. One of them is through a good bike fit. The other part of saddle position is the fore and aft position on your bike, okay? So you can sit, a lot of people are sitting way too far back. You'll see this a lot, where when they're pedaling, they're almost pedaling forward, right? You kind of see them pedaling like this, and it ends up making them point their toes. So we don't want that. And again, this is not the easiest thing to do in a situation like this, but we really want this knee, the center of your knee, when your crank is right about there, we want the center of this knee to be kind of right over what we call the fifth metatarsal head of your foot, or that bony part of your foot. So in other words, you need to be pushing straight down on those pedals, right? Not behind you, not in front of you, straight down. That's where you're going to get the power, okay? Now, some of you have your saddle too low. So if you ever experience pain on the front of your knee, that's almost always because your saddle is too low and you need to raise it, okay? Now, when we talk about raising and lowering or moving your saddle fore or aft, keep in mind, my world is a world of millimeters. It is not inches, it is not centimeters, it's millimeters. So if I move a saddle 1 centimeter, that is a mile in my world. That is a massive saddle adjustment. So when you start making adjustments, you make small little adjustments. Don't be afraid to try stuff. It's okay. Try it, but make small adjustments to that position, okay? That's, you'll be shocked at what a difference that can make for you. So if you don't have a bike fit available to you, or a good bike fitter available to you, don't be afraid to try stuff. Start moving stuff up and down. Because here's the other thing about your body and how it performs on a bike. Your body will not lie to you. If something's wrong, it's going to tell you something's wrong. It's going to tell you it's not going to feel right. It's going to hurt. There's no such thing as normal pain. There's no such thing as normal pain on a bike. If you have pain on a bike, that is your body telling you something is not correct, and you need to fix that. Now, do we all get fatigued and we kind of have that kind of I guess you could call pain. Sure, after 4 hours on a bike, nothing feels good. But I'm talking about knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, your hands going numb, saddle pain. We'll get there in a second, ladies. Those are not normal things. There is no such thing as normal pain. So when I talk about the three things that I see people do wrong all the time, it's saddle height, saddle fore and aft, and reach to the bars. Those are the three biggies. And if you can get anywhere close with all those three, you're going to be just fine. And I don't want to get too technical in here and start quoting numbers and angles and everything to you. Trust what you feel. Seriously, if it feels good, it's probably good. If it doesn't feel good, it's probably not. Now, having said all that, you ever see someone pointing their toes when they pedal right at the bottom? You ever see that? They're pointing their toes, pointing their toes. That's because their saddle is too high. The worst advice you could give them, and it happens all the time, is push your heels down. No, don't push your heels down, because the reason their heels are up is because they're reaching for their pedal, okay? Their body doesn't like the saddle height, because as they're pedaling, they're hyperextending every time. So what happens is they just lift their foot to create bend in the knee. The body's just trying to work properly. So keep that in mind too. Everything should just be very normal. When I'm doing a bike fit and it comes to saddle height, yeah, I'm looking at your knee angle at the bottom of your pedal stroke. But what I'm really watching is your feet, because your feet will tell me everything about your position. Whether or not your saddle's too high or too low, your foot movement will tell me everything I need to know. So that's really what we're looking at when we do a bike fit and when we're working on saddle position. Anyways, I thought I'd mention that because people are always telling everybody to push their heels down. Usually people aren't pushing their heels down, or their heels aren't low enough because their saddle is just too high. So, okay, let's talk about saddles and saddle pain. Okay, men, we go numb, right? We might feel some chafing because we're rocking back and forth, or maybe the saddle doesn't fit us just right, but that's about all we're gonna feel, okay? Not so for ladies. It's a whole different world for ladies. Ladies, if you tell a man your saddle hurts, and he says the phrase, "you'll get used to it," Now you've got the green light to smack him in the head, okay? Because he has no idea what you're talking about. Women feel excruciating pain from their saddles. It's not what we feel. So if you're trying to help a lady who's new to the sport and she talks about her saddle hurting, listen to that lady and listen to what she's feeling, because she needs help. Because I find more than anything what keeps women out of this sport is saddle pain. It hurts so bad that it's just not worth riding to you, okay? Now, saddle pain can be part of your bike fit, because if your position on your saddle is wrong, the pressure points on your saddle are gonna be all wrong. But it's also, what saddle do you use, right? So for women, this is much more important than men. And again, we stupid boys, we think saddles hurt you sort of right up the middle of the saddle, which is often true. But really for women, it's not the center of the saddle, and we're gonna get a little graphic here. It's just inside your thigh on either side is where you're feeling the rubbing. That is excruciating pain. It's not gonna go away, and you're not gonna get used to it. You need to get a really good bike fit done, and then make sure you're on a saddle that works for you. And there are different saddles out there. There's lots of different saddles. The current best one tends to be a specialized saddle. It's called a Mimic. That tends to be the saddle that most women choose. It's what my wife rides. She loves it. So I would say that right now, that's probably the number one saddle in the world for women, but there's tons of them. And again, it's all about your position and the saddle itself. But again, if I could get anything across to the men in this room, it's that, yeah, you don't know what women feel on bikes. Women feel a lot of pain. But ladies, there is no such thing as normal pain, because that's the other thing about women. They're tougher than us men, and they'll put up with pain. They just assume, of course it hurts, I'm riding a bike. No, it's not supposed to hurt you to ride a bike. It's really not. So just please keep that in mind, and don't be afraid to tell your friends, your bike fitter especially, hey, I'm feeling this pain. and work to get rid of that pain. It's so incredibly important to do that because you'll enjoy the sport so much more if you can ride pain-free and if you can get every ounce of power out of your legs. And so all that effort you're putting in is getting you to where you want to go in such a fun way. Pain can take all of that away from us, and you don't need to put up with it. I promise you, you don't, okay? So thank you, Cedric, for being my dummy here. I love this man. You just have to know, so I can give him a hard time. I was texting him during that Michigan game, and then it got a little out of hand, and I stopped texting him real fast. So, does anybody have any questions about Bike Fit? Rasan, go ahead.
It's more of an observation, I guess, and maybe you can chime in on it. So, like, I watch a lot of European bike racing, and a lot of the cyclists, men and women, actually, more men, I would say, from my eye, run their saddle lower. And then on the women's side, I'm talking about like the top of the world tour, it seems like their saddles are higher.
Yeah.
What's the correlation there? Why does it look that way?
Okay, so thank you. Saddle heights are much lower today than they were, say, 20, 25 years ago. A lot lower. There's a lot less extension in the leg because we've learned a lot about biomechanics. The unfortunate truth is this. Men and men's teams have a lot of money to hire people like me to get them in the proper position. Women's teams don't. They just don't. They rely on free advice often. You'd be shocked at how many of the top women in the world have never had a proper bike fit. They just can't afford it. And if you don't know this about this sport, and it's changing rapidly, trust me, it's getting better and better. But do you know how many women who ride professionally don't even get paid anything? They get paid nothing. In fact, they usually have to pay for their own travel. So, unfortunately, Rasan, yeah, they're still kind of stuck in the old way, right? They don't have access to some of the people that the men do, and that's why you see it. It has nothing to do with biomechanics or physiology. It's just a lack of access, unfortunately. Any other questions? Right there, gentlemen. Sorry, right there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, just a question as it relates to women and saddles. I know a lot of women who have gotten multiple bike fits, they still haven't solved the issue.
Yeah.
So is there something in particular that they should be looking for in terms of like when they are looking to get a bike fit?
Okay. Well, boy, how much time do we have? Here's where I think we're failing as an industry. I think we are not very good at teaching bike fit. And I think, just to be honest with you, if it's just we're going to be totally honest, there aren't very many good bike fitters in this world. There really aren't. And it's not their fault. It's not like they're trying to be bad at it. We're just really bad at teaching it. Because the way bike fit is taught, believe it or not, and I don't want to there's some great bike fitters out there, but they are few and far between. I'll just be honest with you. Bike fit is taught in a group, as a group session. You go for 2 days, usually to some bike fit school someone's putting on. It's usually a manufacturer. You don't have to prove anything during those 2 days. You're just going, sitting there and listening to people like me talk, and you're now a certified bike fitter. Now, what's your name, sir? Devontae, now you go 2 extra days. You're going to stay 2 extra days and listen to more people like me talk and have your eyes glaze over because you're bored to death. But now you're a master fitter. You are a master. It means nothing, right? It means nothing. It's all about experience. And that's the problem with bike fit. It's a combination of art and science, right? I can have motion capture going and I can know all of Cedric's angles, but there are a range of angles, right? And it's not enough to get you in the range, it's where in the range you feel best. And that's a problem. So I don't have an easy answer for you, but I will tell you this. There's some great, YouTube is your friend. It is amazing how much great information there is on YouTube. I would encourage all of you to learn more about it. Learn about your position, but also so you can help other people. And this is kind of off topic, but I've been in this industry for a very long time. I'm an old man. And I remember a couple years ago, Cedric, I don't know if we actually openly talked about this. I mostly go to World Tour races. I don't go to local races. But Cedric and I went to a local criterium here, just down the street. I hadn't been to a local crit probably 25 years. And what shocked me and this is where Rasan and the Williams brothers have made such an amazing difference in this sport. The diversity in that field and the people watching that race, I had never seen anything like that. Rasan used to joke, I don't know if you remember ever saying this before because it was a long time ago. He used to say, and you might still say it, but he used to say he was a raisin in the milk, right? You remember saying that? Yeah, okay. But it is changing, and it is changing rapidly. And I think I joked with Cedric that day because we were standing there. I go, I'm very uncomfortable in my environment right now, because I was like the only white guy there. It was the coolest thing in the world. And so I look out on this audience, and we've now have these people participating. What I want to encourage you to now do is move into the industry, right? We need more diversity. I love that it's growing in participation. Now we need you involved in the industry. That's what we need. That's desperately what this industry needs. This industry is stale, and in many ways it's broken. And I look at the people who are becoming involved in the sport in the last 5-10 years and the amazing change we're seeing. It's incredible. Now I need you to be in the industry. That's what we need you here for. Because that question you just had, can I just tell you, it's a constant question. And the only answer I have for you is an honest one going, yeah, we really suck at teaching bike fit. That's why you can't find a good bike fitter. And yet they still charge you $400, right? Right? I mean, it's ridiculous to me. And then if you're not comfortable, oh, that'll be another $150. Well, why is that not? Are you crazy? It didn't work. You shouldn't be charged anything for that, in my opinion. So anyways, don't get me too started on that. But thank you. That is an excellent question, Devontae. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir, in back. Oh, Greg.
How often should you get bike fit?
Excellent question. So, I go back and forth on this a little bit, to be honest with you. You definitely need one really good bike fit. You shouldn't need to get bike fit every year unless your body has changed a lot. You shouldn't need to get another bike fit year after year. Do our positions evolve a little bit? Yes, absolutely. But again, that to me is where you listen to your body. And if something feels wrong to you, make a little change. See if it feels better. If it doesn't feel better, put it back. Don't be afraid to play with it. But I would say get one really good bike fit, and then every couple of years, if your body has changed, maybe you're brand new to the sport, right? And so now 2 years into it, you're ready to be in a more aggressive position or something. Definitely go get another fit, but find that guy you trust. It's kind of like a good bike mechanic, by the way. Once you find the guy or girl that is really good, yeah, you stick with them no matter where they go. That's what you do. So, but that's a good question. I don't have a direct answer for you because it really depends. Like if I were to all of a sudden finally lose the weight I want to lose, my position on my bike's going to change, right? It's just going to change. It's just the way it is, right? My saddle pressure points are going to change. Everything's going to change. So, great question. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious, do you have an opinion on the infinity seat? Because my boyfriend, and also the fact that it's a unisex saddle, and so you take one for men and women. My boyfriend is so enamored with it, he went and put out every single bike, 4 bikes. And then we actually had a professional fit with someone I think is very reputable. And he was appalled.
Okay, so that's a good question. So for those of you who don't know, how am I doing, Ken? Okay. For those of you that don't know, the Infinity Saddle was made by a local chiropractor here in Southern California, and it is this hammock of a seat, basically. But let me tell you, man, some people love this seat. Okay, if you love a seat, that's because it's a good seat for you, right? So I don't care what a saddle looks like. I don't care how it works. If it fits you, that's a good saddle. That's my opinion anyway. So I don't have to have a saddle look cool and be super light. You usually don't want a ton of padding, I'll be honest with you. The more padding feels good at first, and then after a while you start sinking into that padding and you start chafing. It doesn't feel so good anymore. So you don't want a super soft saddle, but that Infinity saddle, it's like a hammock, right? And if it hits you right, whoo, yeah, that's a great saddle. So, yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Thank you so much. Yes. Oh man. Now I'm afraid. I'm afraid to pick on this guy. Go ahead.
I know that you do a lot of ERO testing and fitting for people that are in the tri position.
Yes.
So, can you also talk to me about that stuff? Can you speak a little bit about that for those that like to ride an ERO, and then those that are racing like Rasan, and those that are more on the level that want to be ERO tested, and what ERO testing
Yes. So one of the things I am pretty much retired from daily fitting now. I have other people doing the fits at ERO. We have an ERO in Pennsylvania, by the way. I know some of you are from Pennsylvania. In Phoenixville, there's an ERO Sports there. Missy Erickson runs it. She's one of the best fitters in the world. Anyways, I'm primarily retired from daily fitting now. I work mostly in aerodynamics. And I'm known throughout the world for my work in aerodynamics with all the world time trial champions and Ironman champions I fit. We make you faster through aerodynamics. People ask me all the time, Jim, if cycling is a cleaner sport than it used to be, and it's cleaner. No sport is perfectly clean, okay? So they catch people doping and curling, okay? If there's Olympic medals to be had and money to be made, people are gonna do whatever they need to do. So we're not going there. But it is cleaner. I'm telling you right now, cycling is much cleaner than it used to be. So why are they going faster? How's that even possible? If they're cleaner, why are they going faster? And there's two reasons. Well, there's three reasons. One, our training is so much better than it used to be. The knowledge of training that we have is so much better. Two, our knowledge of biomechanics is better. Saddle heights are lower, so there's more power going to those pedals. But the biggest reason is aerodynamics. If you go and look at Lance Armstrong in the Tour in 1999 and the baggy clothes that he was wearing and the completely non-aero bike and bike parts that he was using and compare it to today, it's night and day. And so now we use deep wheels, right? Almost everybody's got deep wheels on their bike. That makes a difference. This bike is aero shaped. This is probably the most aero road bike in the world. It's arrow shaped. We now wear tight clothing, right? It's very close to us. People would not believe how important clothing is. When you wear this nice loose clothing, that stuff is killing you aerodynamically. I mean, killing you. And so you'll notice now, even in mountain stages, these guys, when it's not so hot, when it's hot, they're going to open up their zippers. But otherwise, the clothing is tight. Even on the road stages and mountain stages, they're wearing semi-aero helmets. All of these things add up to make these riders go faster. So aerodynamics is a huge part, and that is now my focus. But you don't have to be riding in the aero position to be aero. There are so many things you can do in your road position with the wheels and the frames and the clothing and the helmets, and it all adds up for you. And so, I've just been lucky throughout my career to have access to technology that others do not. So I can currently aero test people while you actually are riding your bike. There's some really cool technology coming down the road here soon. Thanks. I do aero testing quite a bit. It's mostly people in the aero position. But you guys should be paying attention to your aerodynamics. It makes a huge difference. I saw a hand. Yes, sir.
So when it comes to numbness in your hands, when you're feet, right?
Yes.
The height of the saddle?
Yes. Okay, wait. So two questions here. Numbness in your hands. Anybody get numbness in their hands? Are you kicking me out? Numbness in your hands. There's a couple of reasons you might go numb in your hands. One, the biggest reason, you have too much weight on your hands. And you might have too much weight on your hands because you're too far forward on the saddle, right? And as you move forward on the saddle, you're putting weight on your hands. You could be reaching too far, right? Does anybody get numb in like the last two fingers? Does anybody get that? That's your ulnar nerve. Your ulnar nerve is being compressed right at your palm. You really need to pay attention to that because that actually can start to become a little bit permanent. So you've got too much weight on your hands. That's the biggest problem. Now, numb feet. Anybody get numb feet? Okay, there's a whole different world we're going to talk about now. You guys started this. It's your fault. Okay, whose little toes go numb? Little toes. Right here, right here. Okay, little toes is actually probably the most common toe numbness we see. It's almost always because you have what's called a varus tilt to your forefoot. Again, you asked. So a varus tilt to your forefoot, 80% of the population has it. It means your little toe hangs lower than your big toe. It's that simple. Any runners in here? You know what stability shoes are? Right? They keep you from pronating, right? They keep you land on the outside of your foot and pronate in. Well, the same thing happens in cycling. If this is the normal position of your foot, I'm exaggerating this, and you clip it into a pedal, you just forced your foot into a pronated position, and it doesn't want to be there. It wants to be here. And so your little toes will go numb. That That is the number one thing I see when it comes to toe numbness. And so we put wedges in your shoe and we take care of it for you. But, okay. So, and then cleat position is the other reason you can get toe numbness, by the way. So yeah, I've been told to wrap it up, but I'll take one more question, sir, right there. That's the best looking guy in the room. I got to take his question, right? Yes.
We get this all the time.
Yeah.
So we talked about fitness, but what we also hear is the padding. And so they're saying,
On shorts?
yeah,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
find an apparel company that does padding for women.
Oh, you're awesome. Okay. What was your name?
My name is Glenn.
Glenn. Oh, man. He's what? Well, all right. Okay, this is, I wish my wife was here right now. Who are shorts designed by? Men. Virtually everything's designed by men. This is such a great question. The chamois on shorts, the seams, are in the worst place for women. It's right, again, remember, talk about inside of your thigh? Where are the seams at on the chamois? Right inside your thigh, and they're rubbing you. There's actually a company in Santa Monica here in Southern California called Core. There's 2 different cores out there. I think they're I'll get you this information. They make a pad for women that is just a single piece of felt. Here's the other thing about pads. Oh my gosh, you guys get me going. This is not good. The thicker the pad is usually worse for you guys, okay? Because that's just gonna bunch up and put pressure on you. You don't want big, thick, padded shorts. You really don't. You want a nice, thin pad. Women, for a lot of women, you just want a piece of felt down there to catch the sweat. That's all you need, because anything else is just poking up into you and not feeling good, okay? So that was a great question. So this company in Santa Monica, they make a completely seamless chamois. It's really just a piece of felt, but women who try it love it. They love that short. So I'll get Ken that information so he can get it out to you ladies, okay? Thank you for that question. Thank you guys so much. I know we can talk about this all day long. I'll be happy to stick around and answer some questions. And I'm sorry for insulting Cedric, but he's my friend, I'm allowed. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Put your hands together again for Jim Manton from ERO. I said his name wrong. I said ERO. It's ERO. You can lead the bike, though. You can lead a bike. You know, just in case, man.